Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at algebraic division. We're going to look at how to identify when to use it and also how to actually apply it. So in very basic terms, we know what improper fractions are, stuff like 7/4, where the numerator is actually larger than the denominator. And I can rewrite this as a mixed fraction, 1 and 3/4. This is essentially what we're going to be doing, but instead of values or just numbers, we're going to be looking at functions in the fractions. So first of all, how to identify when the numerator is actually larger than the denominator. There's actually two steps you should be looking at. The first one is actually the coefficients, such as 3x plus 1 over x minus 2. As you can see here, on the numerator we have 3x and on the bottom we only have 1x, right? So the coefficient of x in the numerator is larger than the denominator, so we know it's a mixed fraction. That's the first key point you should be looking at. The second one is actually the highest power of x. So if I had a fraction like x squared plus 2 over x minus 1, we have this x squared term on the top and only an x term on the bottom. And once again, this tells us that it's actually an improper fraction and therefore we can divide it. So that's how we know or identify improper fractions. Now, to actually apply algebraic division, so let's take a look at this question here. Let's say 2x squared plus 3x minus 1 over x plus 1, like this. And so you guys have probably learned long division. So this format might seem familiar to you, where we have this kind of setting, like here. So when I'm actually doing algebraic division, I like to think of it as 6 simple steps, which I repeat. So the first step is divide, minus, open bracket, multiply, close bracket, and subtract. This might seem a bit weird to you at the moment, but hopefully as we're going on, it gets a bit more easier. So first things first, or before we even start, make sure that whatever x squared value, or if there are any x squared values, we write in this x squared column. Any x values, we write in this x column, and in this any values or just in numbers, we write in the number column here. It just makes it a bit more easier and cleaner when we're actually solving the question. So as I said, there's 6 simple steps, right? So the first thing is divide. What I mean by divide is we look at this value here and see this value here, and we say, how many x's go into 2x squared? Or 2x squared divided by x is just 2x. So I'm going to write this 2x in our x column here, like this. And then the second step is minus, open bracket, and then we multiply. So we multiply this 2x to each term here. So 2x times x is 2x squared, plus 2x times 1 is 2x, and then we close our bracket. The last step is subtract. So I subtract the x squares, that will give me 0x squared. 3x minus 2x will just give me x. And then we have, so that's the steps. And this is what we're going to repeat again and again and again. So what I mean by repeat is now we bring the next term down. So this is minus 1, so bring that down, and I repeat it. So first step, what was it? Divide. So if we divide x by x, I get 1. Actually plus 1, so I'm going to write that as plus 1 here. Minus, open bracket. Now we multiply this plus 1 to each term here and here again. So 1 times x is x, 1 times plus 1 is plus 1, like this, close bracket, and now we subtract. The x's will disappear, and we'll have minus 1 will be minus 2. And then repeat. So how many x's goes into 2? Well, it doesn't actually go into 2, right? So this is when we know how to stop this process. And so what we're left is this term here on the top. This is known as the quotient term. And this term here at the bottom, which is known as the remainder term. If we get a remainder of 0, we know that it's a factor. That's a key point you should remember. So therefore, I can rewrite this here, this initial fraction, as the quotient, which was 2x plus 1, minus the remainder over x plus 1, like this. Right, let's take a look at a more difficult question. So let's say we have a question where we have 8x cubed plus 1 over 4x squared plus 4x minus 1. So this is slightly harder, but it's the same process, the same 6 steps you should be following. So let's write it out. So we have 4x squared plus 4x minus 1, and then we have 8x cubed. Now, very importantly, there's no x squared terms and there are no x terms, right? However, when we're doing our setup, we need to actually include it, and we do that by writing it as plus 0x squared. And also plus 0x, and then the plus 1. It's essential that you include these two terms, otherwise this algebraic division will not work. Right, now we just have to follow the 6 steps as we learned before. So first things first is divide. We look at this term here, right, and this first term, and we say, what's 8x cubed divided by 4x squared? Well, that's just 2x. So I'm going to write the x in the x column, right? So there's 2x here. Now we minus open bracket, and we multiply this 2x to each individual value here. So we'll get 8x cubed plus 8x squared minus 2x like this. Close bracket, and now subtract. 8x cubed would disappear. 0x squared minus 8x squared is minus 8x squared. 0x minus 2x is plus 2x, and then we bring the plus 1 down. Now we repeat. So what would we get if we divide minus 8x squared by 4x squared? Well, it's just minus 2. So writing that in the number column here, and then minus open bracket, multiplying to each term. So minus 8x squared minus 8x plus 2. Close bracket, and then subtract. So the x squared code values will disappear. 2x minus 8x is 10x. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. 10x divided by 4x squared, well, that doesn't actually work, right? So this is how we know when to stop. So once again, we're left with the quotient value, and we're also left with the remainder value. So that means I can rewrite this initial fraction as 2x minus 2 plus the remainder, 10x minus 1, over the original denominator, like so. And this is useful for later on when we actually have to integrate fractions like this, so just be aware of it. And once again, I'll just leave some questions and question suggestions on the bottom, and if you answer them, just leave them again in the comment section below.